legends come to fight. Bodies clashing, dreams ignite under the neon lights. Oh yeah, Pondwater Davies, the voice calling every move. Amy Vaughn and the trivia getting you in the groove. Oh yeah. Feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, talking wrestling, it's the wall right from suplexes to body slams. We got it all inside, get ready for excitement, that's on the show. Talking wrestling is ready to throw down. Oh yeah. Woo,
Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. I'm Pondwater Dave. Joined with me as always is the first lady of the Arn Anderson fan club, Miss Amy Vaughn.
Did you see Arn this weekend?
I did. Well, I didn't see the pay-per-view.
How come?
I was watching softball.
Oh, that's
The
right.
state tournament was this weekend.
Oh, that's right. How did she do? I forgot.
They came in fourth. They finished fourth.
Out of the state? That's fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, for that, for their class, whatever.
And what is she? She's like a freshman or eighth grader.
Freshman, yeah. But joining us again this week,
Oh, she's here.
she's back.
Yay.
Welcome, my daughter Brittany, to the show. Hi, babe. How you doing?
Hello.
Good.
We just before we get kicked off, I was just telling Amy about the I didn't watch wrestling this weekend because I was watching softball, and it was really exciting because well, I can show you better than I can tell you. Maddie Shaw up to bat, first pitch.
Oh my gosh.
It's going back, and it's gone with the bases loaded.
Ooh.
My granddaughter hit her first grand slam.
That's so cool.
That is so cool. And I like how you got it on video. Did she win
Thank
the
you to
belt?
Game
Did
Changer.
she
The
get
Game
belt
Changer
of the
app
week?
makes a lot of difference.
That looked beautiful too. It was a beautiful day.
Oh, it was
Afternoon, evening, whenever it was. It looked pretty.
it was hot, but it was a great day for softball. They didn't do so good second game. They played Tri-County. Tri-County's in their head. They can beat Tri-County. But it's one of those deals that's like,
Is that like a rival? I don't know geographically where Tri-County is. What?
not so. I don't really think that the private schools really have. I don't think of them as geographic rivals. Everything's wrestling. There's good guys and bad guys. Of course, I think we're baby faced, and Tri-County's heels.
I got you.
I mean, to me, you come up with your teams that you don't want to lose. I don't ever want to lose. Losing sucks. Don't let anybody ever tell you any different. But Tri-County's one that they want to beat them. They want to beat them real bad. It's just they get in their head. But they were down 10-0, and they lost 10-6. They were coming back. They were coming back. It was. I mean, they can play with them, and it's not like they get blown out every time by Tri-County. It's just they're going to get over that hump with them. That's their. Everybody's got that one opponent that you got to get over that hump against, and then,
that's right.
I think their biggest rival may be a team called Riverfield. But these girls play softball against each other. They play basketball against each other. They play soccer against each other. So there's personal rivalries, and it all girl sports is so much better than boys sports.
Is Fritz trying to tell you something? Is that Fritz?
Yeah,
That-
probably trying to tell Stephanie something.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe Fritz had some more he wanted to tell us about the softball game.
No, Fritz can fetch and bring.
Oh,
Bucky will
Take
drop
him?
it. Huh?
Do y'all take them to the games?
No.
Wasn't that the whole point of getting small dogs? Is you wanted to be able to take them everywhere?
Well, you can't take them into every park.
really?
Oh
You
yeah.
couldn't take them into that ball field?
Mm-mm.
I guess they don't want dogs.
No,
to poo
last
everywhere.
week, if they weren't service dogs, they couldn't come in. So you hate to drive 2 hours from home to get there and find out you can't take your animals in. So I mean, we know which fields we can and we can't. But as hot as it was, and they're small. I mean,
Yeah, no. I would never have thought they couldn't, but I guess I understand. You got to keep it clean.
but Fritz, I got these squeaky toys and I threw one and Fritz grabbed it and I said, "Bring it," and he brought it. And it wasn't like I had to fight him to get it back from him. And then I squeaked it a couple times and threw it, and he ran after it again. Bring it. He brings it to me. Now,
Uh-huh.
out when Bucky wrestles it away from him, I'll say, "Bucky, bring it." Bucky will just drop it and run to me and want to get pet because Fritz is the smarter of the two.
Hmm.
So, but Bucky's in your face, me. It's Brittany knows. Brittany's got two. I can't believe that we are not seeing hers.
One of them was creeping earlier, but I think they're downstairs with Ricky.
Oh,
Oh. Hopefully they make it appear. What's your dog's names?
Hammond and Franklin.
So you
Oh,
did
give 'em-
not go
give 'em-
with
give 'em the
wrestling. You
full
went with
names.
A different.
Franklin's full name is Lord Franklin Alexander Longbottom III, because he's
Love
fancy.
it.
And Hammond was named prematurely. We should have given it a minute, but his full name is Professor Hammond G. Woofington. But he is the dumbest dog I've ever had. So Professor was a little premature.
she has corgis.
Now I've had some professors. I was going to say I have professors that have a lot of book sense, but not a lot of common sense. Is that kind
He's
of what
got
you're-
neither.
Maybe he's.
He
He's
has-
not even. Oh,
He has
he's
neither.
a nerd
He's-
dog.
It's good he's cute. It keeps him alive. 'Cause
Yeah, that's like Bucky.
He's just the dumbest.
That's like Bucky. So we're going to pick up where we left off. I want to warn everybody up front. We did on the beginning. I wanted to post up. Sometimes we got stuff going in the private chat that pops me. I apologize. We put up a disclaimer as the show came on. Tonight's episode contains mature themes, including sexual contact and discussion of sexually based crimes. This material may be upsetting or inappropriate for some viewers, especially younger audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. But isn't viewer discretion always advised on our show, Amy?
Definitely. Why would you let any child listen to us, right? No.
Exactly.
You just never know what might come out.
Well,
Just never know.
there we go. Got our crawl going. We're going to pick up where we left off with episode 4, the Attitude Era. To recap, we learned early in this episode that Vince is a fan of Dr. Jerry Graham. Dr. Jerry Graham was a gimmick that cigar smoking, fast cars. He wasn't like, I've thought about it all week, the best way to describe him. He's probably a mix of Ric Flair and Harley Race.
Hmm.
I mean, because Harley was no nonsense. You knew that Harley would whip your ass. I mean,
Mhm.
Harley didn't care about anything. He'd get in the car, It was, I'm going to drive as fast as I can. Don't care if you like it. I mean, that's just how he
Right.
was. He'd walk into a pool hall. If he wanted to play pool, he'd walk up the table, knock all your quarters off the table and put his down. And legendary tales of Harley not giving two shits about, if you want to do something, let's do it. And mixed with the flamboyancy of, and Vince even mentioned that he bleached his hair like Dr. Jerry Graham. So he even did his hair that way one time.
It reminds me of a mob boss. I mean, like I could see like John Gotti and just kind of the lighting your cigars with $100 bill, like just that. I don't want to say arrogance. That's not really what the word is, but just that.
Very showy.
Yes.
Bruce tells a story of going to New York. Vince taking him to New York City to get a haircut. A hotel in New York City. They got a haircut, and Vince would do the $100 bill. He paid with $100 bills, and it was reminiscent of Dr. Jerry Graham lighting cigars with $100 bills. That was, and that stuck out to me. So that's kind of when that history, Mr. McMahon with the exaggerated walk, not caring what you think. I'm telling you what you like. That all kind of makes sense when Battle Royal right outside, right here.
Hell in the cell.
Come for me and Amy, and stay for the dogs. May have to get a third camera that just on the dogs all the time.
I know. Some may say they're more entertaining.
I would watch more.
Oh. Hey, we gotta do what we gotta do, right?
Yeah.
A paw camera.
They're cuter than me and not near as lippy. So that moves in to recap the Bret Hart situation where Vince tells him he can't afford him. We covered all that. That that he sits down and he tells JR that Bret screwed Bret.
Ugh, I got so mad.
And I know and I'm the opposite side of the coin, because I remember listening to him talk about the time-honored tradition and Bret screwed Bret. I kind of agreed that Bret screwed Bret. And now, all these years later, I maintain that Bret should drop the belt. That was the right thing to do. But I do remember watching the interview with Vince at the time with JR, and that Bret screwed Bret. It didn't trigger me because I agreed. But Brittany, you said that. Tell us about
it. It pissed me off in the context of the whole thing. Like, honestly, it was today. I went back and skimmed through episode 4 because I had watched it so long ago. And he's just such a piece of shit. And it's just the inability to accept any responsibility for anything ever. Like, he can't possibly be the bad guy in any situation, which is so strange to me, because he literally, like, the guy that he liked when he was little, like, he talks about how, like, no one likes the nice guy. Like, everyone wants, like, he always liked the heel. Like, and no one likes the nice guy. You want to be the bad. Like, you idolized the villains, but then you can't, like, you're not gonna, like, you can't just admit you're a dick. Like,
see, though, I think he idolized the villains because he saw them as strong and powerful and nobody messed with them, because he was getting beat by his stepdad, per his words. And God only knows what else, because I think if anybody out there ever wants to do a really good deep dive, we need to know those, like, that first 12, 15, 20 years of his life, because that is where everything started, went haywire, whatever. But, like, I like think looking at Dr. Jerry Graham and that's who he idolized. It's like you said, that man, you're not going to mess with that man. That man he was using $100 bills to burn, to light his cigars. Like he was a man of mans in the sense.
Yeah.
And if he was getting whooped up on home, if people were beating him up in their trailer park, that's exactly who I'd be idolizing. Like that's what I'm going to be like, and I'm not going to get messed with. But just like you said, Brittany, narcissists, they don't see that they do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's completely incapable.
And I think too, just like you were saying, or we had talked about maybe last time, if it was truly about, I don't want my belt to get on WCW, which I do understand that was, they had seen some of that. Lex Luger showed up, and so I could kind of see some of that. The way they went about it, it was a very much, I'm in control. This is my show. You aren't going to tell me what you're going to do, because they could have, even when the Wendy Richter thing with the Spider Woman, Vince McMahon wasn't out there. He didn't have the Stooges out there too. Everybody was around the ring during that match, and Pat Patterson was out there, and it's like you knew something was going to happen or was going on, and it just was like he wanted him to know, he being Vince McMahon, wanted Brett to know, I am the one who did this.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I think.
I get that.
Grab it in the back. We talked about that last time. Just what the hell's he going to do? Run through the crowd? You can get your belt back.
Well, Bruce didn't know about it. Bruce said that he was in Gorilla when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
JR said that he didn't know about it. But he said the reason and Undertaker didn't know about it. But he said that the reason that he didn't let anybody know, other than Briscoe, is that JR was the head of talent relations, and he didn't have to lie and say that he was in on it. He didn't put Bruce in a bad position. He didn't put JR in a bad position, because they didn't have to lie and say or lose the trust by being in on it. And that's what JR and Bruce both maintained, that Vince came to the ring to tell him to do it himself. He personally handled the screw job.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm like you. I think he wanted Brett to know who did it.
100%.
But what was the perceived, what was the insult that required him making a point? Because Vince was the one that was like, here's how you get out of your contract. What did he do that pissed him off? That they may have said it, and I just can't remember what it was.
I think it's just that Sean refused to do business.
And Brett didn't want to
do business.
Right. And Brett did not want to lose in Canada.
Yeah, he didn't want to lose to, I keep calling him Brett Michaels.
He didn't want to lose to Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
right.
In Canada. But they figured out a way to get around it.
And see, and I don't know if you know this, Brittany, but they've had legit problems back then. They didn't talk about the fight. On
he mentioned that they actually did not get along in real life.
Right. They actually had a fight, and Brett had come up and thanked Sean for doing something. And Sean said, well, you're a better man than I am, because there's no way in hell I'd ever do that for you. And when he did, Brett knocked crap out of him. And anyway, Brett ended up pulling out a chunk of Sean's hair. So Sean went to Vince in an unsafe work environment. They both went home. This was before Raw. It affected the show. They had a knockdown drag out in the locker room. And
I was going to say, I think that it kind of came down to, I guess, Vince having to choose between Sean and Brett. And Brett is he's a very good technical wrestler, but Sean is definitely the more magnetic, more, charismatic, personality. And I think ultimately he chose Sean and tried to let Brett go.
I said last week, I said, I don't believe for a second that Vince couldn't. I don't think it was a matter of Vince couldn't afford the $1 million a year contract for 20 years. I think it was he needed to get rid of Bret to keep Sean happy. I think he chose sides, and he chose correctly. Because I mean, Bret Hart was good, but let's be honest. If Bret Hart looked like he was on steroids, he wouldn't have got the push when he got it. He was a good champion when you're coming out of a steroid trial, because you don't look like. I mean, he was a small. I mean, and he's talented in the ring, but if you don't believe him, just ask him. He'll tell you. But I'm here to tell you that Bret Hart ain't even the best wrestler in his family.
I think at that point we were looking at showmanship and and again, you're right. Bret would have been good in the 70s, like when you had the Bruno Sammartino, but even when you had someone that was like, you had hour-long matches and 20-minute headlocks, and like Bret would have been fabulous back in that day. But yeah, if you look at the two, I mean, Bret just did not get it and have that, charisma like Shawn did, even though, Shawn would say I was being a total prick. And so,
and he wasn't. Bret was a great heel with the Hart Foundation, pro-Canada, anti-America, whiny baby character. Because the best gimmicks are those that are an extension of yourself. And we know Bret Hart. The difference between Bucky and Fritz at the front door and Bret Hart at the back door is that if you let Bucky and Fritz in, they'll quit crying. So HBK.
Bret Hart isn't your favorite.
No. I mean, I respect him. I don't sound like it.
Oh, so I was going to say, I mean, yes, totally get there that you respect him.
But just over the years, I've had to listen to him talk about how, I mean, he's better than Ric Flair and he's better than Shawn. No.
I mean, I think you have to say that, like in a profession like wrestling, I think you've got to think you're the best. What are you doing?
Well, you got to, but I mean,
You're not allowed to say it.
I'm just saying that I've never spent $1. I've never spent $1 to watch Bret Hart wrestle.
Right. I thought I've never really felt like to have to choose between Bret or Shawn, but there is one thing he did say, and I do think it might be this episode, but he said the first thing that hit his mind was, did they kill Owen to get back at me to go to the WCW? And I was just like, I mean, that's a really big statement. Like, you really think, number one, that Vince McMahon is capable of murder?
Yes.
And that you were like that someone.
Side note, yes, he is.
Wait a minute.
At that point, no.
You really believe that, Brittany? You think that?
What? Yes. Yeah, I think 1000% if murdering someone made all of his current problems go away, that person's dead tomorrow.
Okay.
Think about, I mean, we don't know a whole lot of details, but think about Jimmy Snuka and what on that situation and what we've, what
I didn't say you wouldn't cover it up.
Well, that's true. But I'm like, you really think a lot of yourself. Like, I just was like, that you think someone would commit murder to get back at you,
I didn't hear it that way. And maybe it's just because I'm way too sympathetic to him, but I heard it as like, that's just a really traumatic situation. And he handled it horribly. And just given the history, I can imagine, I can see, knowing what Vince is capable of in every other context, to have the thought of he did it on purpose or something, maybe not to murder him, but he was trying to take him out on purpose. And then, like he says later, like,
but it was, how would you think that Vince would have done that? Because you went to WCW because he told you to go to WCW, and he put you in a position to milk them for a lot of money that they didn't have to. Because if he would have just said, if he would have let it be known that he couldn't afford Brett at $1 million a year, Brett wouldn't have got as much as he got at WCW.
Yeah,
so
but on
it's
his
not
way out,
like
he
he
humiliated Vince
yeah.
by beating the shit out of him.
But I'd never heard Brett say that he thought Vince did it, and I never thought that he didn't accept it was an accident.
You did hear it in this, okay?
Until the authorities told him it was an accident, and he believed them.
Oh, but you did hear in this documentary he said that.
Yeah, I'd never heard it before this documentary.
Okay, me neither. I didn't know. Okay, and you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking, because like I said, I rewatched it and I listened to other people, as you can imagine. Lots of people are talking about it, the documentary, and talking about things. And I think that the biggest question, and it was asked in the documentary, is should the show had been stopped?
Yes.
Yep.
And
without question.
You know, and someone, I don't remember which one I was listening to, but it's like, how did they not know that this could have been a crime scene? How did they know someone didn't push him or do, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, do they not have, they have police there, right? Even if it's just crowd control.
Oh yeah. It was, I've got on my notes here. Vince was wrong about Owen, and he shouldn't have, they should have stopped the show. I give them benefit of the doubt that they've never been in that situation before.
But how does the police not stop the show? I guess that's what I'm trying to like.
Well, they put him on the stretcher. They put him in a stretcher and took him, put in an ambulance. So,
I'd be interested to know. Like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like
but
weird.
They also didn't announce it in the building.
No.
Right.
So that was the other part. Like in hindsight, I was like, that is so fucked up. Like they didn't announce it in the building, but they did say it for the live audience watching, which like it's 1999. People don't have you're not texting. Like,
right.
1000% that his family does not know he's dead. The wrestlers in the building don't know he's dead. Or all of them don't. Oh.
That Franklin?
That's him.
Hey, Hammy.
Professor.
But you're going to announce it on live TV? Like, it's like, and I could give it grace that it was 1999. It's the first, this is not like today where, everything is outrage all the time. And so I was like, okay, I get it. He made the wrong call, but then he doubles down on it and said, when he's quoting Bret Hart and being like, yeah, no, if it was me, scrape me off the thing and keep going. And and I was like, just no one's going to fault you for being I had to make a split-second decision. I made the wrong call. He doesn't go that route. It was I didn't do anything wrong. As the businessman, I had to make a business decision. I'm like, these aren't this isn't a machine. These are humans.
It's a really jacked up mentality. And and then even down to the part about mentioning that it was a harness failure.
Mm-hmm.
We had no no liability in that. It was equipment failure. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
And then they said I didn't realize that they had sued the harness factory makers or whatever. I think they said that WWE, they got sued by Martha Hart, and then they sued I don't know how it worked out, but then they sued the
they didn't put a little thing on the screen about it.
Yeah, I don't really know how
they said it was settled, but they didn't. There wasn't anything disclosed about it.
But again,
did you notice he also never says anything human, even He never even says like this was a horrible tragedy and I'm so sorry for his, wife. And he never, there's no like, sorry about your bad luck. Like it wasn't our fault.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk eventually about his 3 computers. And, I think that's the only way you can, you can be that ruthless is you can't think about it like that. But I don't understand why Vince McMahon was able to make that, why Vince McMahon was allowed to make that decision, because obviously Owen went to the hospital. He's dead. Like the police, I guess I'm not understanding in my
Well,
head,
I think it also
building and
speaks.
stuff.
I think it also speaks loudly that the people that work for him, nobody will stand up to him. Nobody will stand up to him when he makes a decision. I mean, you would think that maybe a lot of people would have said, "Hey, we really don't need to do this." I mean, they immediately went to Jeff Jarrett and Deborah.
Oh my God! And Deborah's almost about ready to. She's crying.
Deborah don't know what to say.
Yeah.
She's she's upset and she's getting on Jeff's nerves. But Jeff traveled with Owen. Jeff and Owen were really good friends. They were almost best friends. They were a tag team together. They traveled together. They're both promoters. I mean, second generation promoters' kids. They had a lot in common. And Jeff,
that they told him. I mean, they heard.
He saw him. He saw him on the stretcher.
Well, no, that's what I mean. But I'm just saying, people in the back, Jimmy Corderas, he talked to us about. He felt he felt Owen fall, almost touching him in the ring. And it's just so that the people in the back were knowing that he fell from,
yeah,
that he wasn't alive.
Well, and that being part of Vince's logic of, the crowd didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine. If they'd seen it.
The crowd saw it.
He's like, the lights were off, so they didn't really see it. So it was fine to just pretend he wasn't dead.
Yeah. You're right about that, Brie. That was just
I'm like, that doesn't make it better.
You can kind of see where these decisions are being, it's
that was completely botched. I mean, from top to bottom, that was piss poor handled. And looking back on it, though, poor Jeff, man. And I mean, everybody, they had to go and
want that match to be done as fast as they could so they could get out of there and go see and,
Was it the next match Undertaker? Or is that just the way they edited the episode?
I think it was the way they edited. The next match was Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, because the way they edited the show, it made it look like the next match was Undertaker. It's like, that's not.
Yeah, you're right, Brittany. They edited it to make it look like Hell in a Cell was next, and actually that had happened before. Yeah. Like with the guy just died, but we're going to throw Mick Foley off the top. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely if you want to look at it through just an objective lens, there was definitely some editing choices that were just maybe for people who, like I said, we knew we would have known that was Hell in a Cell. We would have known that happened, prior to Owen falling, but. So, exactly. I mean, it made you think okay, someone just died. Now we're throwing people off the, top of the cage. And it just, it was quite. Oh, and the other thing is, and again, I think this is why he should not have been in charge. Because he said, if it had been me, I would want the show to go on. So why would he not think that about everybody else? Not everybody else thinks that that we no matter what. Hey, Ben.
Good morning, Ben.
All the way from Australia.
And Willie Buck, I do agree. He is one of the best wrestlers ever, as far as getting in the ring and getting it done between the ropes.
Yes.
But he doesn't have the personality. He doesn't have. He didn't have personality. He didn't have the charisma. He was not the total package, so to speak. But I mean, he was a good hand in the ring. moving on. We had the Attitude Era. Bruce Pritchard was on there, and he told us before on his podcast, and he was consistent on the documentary, that the Attitude Era started on the night that Shawn Michaels decided to come out to the ring with a sock stuffed in his bicycle shorts.
Right.
And he was super obnoxious, crotch chopping, jumping up and down on the JR. I mean, it was bad. He was cutting a promo on The Undertaker, said some stuff that he shouldn't have said, and The Undertaker wasn't there. It was a video. It was a pre-taped response. So he's going off on The Undertaker. The Undertaker's not there to respond to it. He's digging himself quite the hole. And Bruce and JR are ready to punish him for doing this. He's crossed the line on live television. And Vince comes back and says, that's what we need. He's got attitude. We need more attitude. And so that's where Attitude Era comes from. And that's when they started cranking things up. And, you know, I want to say I saw Shawn do that, and it was juvenile. I know I wasn't uncomfortable with it. I thought it was funny.
It seems so mild in hindsight, because I was just like, why is this the kickoff? Like he stuffed his shorts, like
in 1999.
Yeah, but like also knowing what it turns into makes that seem very.
But
so then,
also, I was just going to say, you did have NWO going on, and so they were definitely an edgier, you know, like a cool heel. I feel like that's kind of where that kind of started a little bit, because you had the Scott Hall and Kevin Nash like just kind of showing up on TV like they're going to take over, and just, you know, so I think it was probably well, for me, it was
cool. The NWO was cool. And then there was Hogan. Like, one of these things is not like the other. Hall and Nash were cool.
Yeah.
And then Hogan was in it.
Right.
And but Triple H and Shawn Michaels in China, my God, all the things they were doing. Like Sergeant Slaughter would come out to get on to them, and they'd put on the helmets with windshield wipers. So, because Slaughter spits when he talks. So they were doing that. And they did the thing with the spoof on Bill Clinton, where they were reading all these things that they couldn't say on television. So they were beeping all the cuss words. And then they goes, oh, and I just want to say, I did not sleep with that young intern. We were up all night. And I mean, I was loving it. Now, having said that, there was things going on in the arenas. There was things that would go on that, like Brittany said, that I would be uncomfortable with them in the room.
I think what Brittany said, though, was very true about it was more juvenile. Like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were being kind of the cool, maybe high school, I don't know, like the cool kids, you know, but
yeah, it was so
I don't like that kind of stuff. Like it was, I don't even know what the right adjective is. It's like nerdy kid trying to be cool. Yes.
Yeah.
It was definitely like douchebag is kind of like the word that I think about, you know, of just kind of like,
but I mean, me and my buddy my two buddies, we were on a bowling league. We were the Wolf Pack, and we'd throw a strike and then hit the buff back wheel strut, and it's just
you weren't doing the suck it chop.
Oh, we were doing it all. Like, especially if we were bowling somebody that we were comfortable bowling, and we turn around and like, hey, I mean, we were full blown. I'll tell you a funny story about the NWO. We were wearing NWO shirts for our bowling league in Garland, Texas at Showplace Lanes. The Garland Police Department called us over to have a word.
Oh.
Apparently, there's an NWO in Ireland that's a terrorist organization.
Okay.
And we had to assure the Garland's finest that this is silly wrestling, y'all.
That you
I
weren't
mean, look
Irish
at the television.
terrorists.
Huh?
That you weren't Irish terrorists.
Yeah, that we weren't making a political statement. We weren't.
I have so many questions.
That was the concern at Showplace Lanes.
At Showplace Lanes.
From the Garland, Texas police. How do they even know about the Irish, terrorist groups?
I don't know. I just knew about the wrestling part. And I mean, I'm blowing this lane up 10 pins at a time down here. It was just like we couldn't believe it. We were more amused than scared.
Right. Well, yeah.
And I mean, in hindsight, we really treated those cops like they were dumbasses.
I don't think you were very far-fetched.
Y'all, you don't get out much, do you, partner?
No kidding.
But
Really?
then,
get off the Google, Lord.
And they showed on episode 4 the curtain call when Hall and Nash were leaving Madison Square Garden. They even confirmed that Vince okayed it.
Right.
Vince okayed it, but it was not okay. When I say curtain call, what they did is it was a curtain call. After a match, they all got in the ring. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Hall and Nash
wrestled each other.
And they took a bow.
Wrestled who?
They hugged and took a bow.
Right.
And
but they were opponents. They were opponents to each other. So that's why it was very shocking that the baby faces and the heels were regularly friends.
Right. And I mean, even Stephanie McMahon said, she goes, I knew that wasn't supposed to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was so proud of myself when we were watching that. I looked at Ricky. I was like, you can't break kayfabe. And then I was like, that's the word, right? And then 10 seconds later, they explained. I was right.
Well, the video of it is from a fan in attendance.
Yeah.
That's the only reason it was recorded. And so Triple H, they even tell him. I mean, they even admit that somebody had to be punished. It wasn't going to be Shawn. The other two guys were gone. So Triple H had to take the heat for it, even though it was approved. Mm-hmm. I think it worked out for him.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll show you.
It worked. I think it worked out for everyone, right?
Yeah.
He got to marry the boss's daughter. Stone Cold got to be Stone Cold. I mean, I think it worked out well for him.
Stone Cold with hair is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It took me I was like, what is this video? And I realized that's who it was.
Oh yeah. When he had long blonde hair when I first saw him in Dallas. I don't know if I told you, I was actually at his first match at the Sportatorium. He started at the Sportatorium in Dallas. And I mean, it's just, we only knew it because Chris Adams had a wrestling school and he ended up being the star student. But, it's just that, I just remember back that because he stood out to everyone that went to Chris Adams school.
Really?
But, oh yeah. But he has the match with Jake and he gets his lip busted and he has to go get stitched up. Mm-hmm. And he comes back and Michael Hayes says, hey, Jake cut a promo on you. He did a religious promo on you. And so when he comes up after the match and he starts that, you talk about your Psalms, you talk about your John 3:16, Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. So I thought that was kind of strange that even Vince and them thought that might have been too much.
Yeah.
And then the next night on Raw, the crowd is packed with Austin 3:16 signs.
Yeah.
I think they were afraid of the vocal evangelical Christians, like that would be some kind of sacrilegious by taking taking a Bible verse,
Well, yeah.
That was your reaction.
my reaction was like, man, I can't wear that. I mean, it just
Really?
yeah. And I'm not,
Oh,
and I wasn't a Bible thumper or anything. I mean, it was just,
right.
I mean, I'm like firmly number 4 on your prayer list every Sunday. I mean,
You occasionally move up, just so you know. No.
no, I mean, like if we would go somewhere, if we'd go somewhere like a church group and something went down, I'm the guy that would be like, I'm like on the outskirts where I can tell somebody to go fuck themselves because y'all know how I am. I mean, like I was I got tickled. We got NASCAR jackets on our bowling leagues too. Because we'd be on, I mean, just there's always a theme for a league. So I'm wearing my Dale Earnhardt Budweiser jacket, my Dale Earnhardt Jr. when he was still driving Budweiser car, and I'm at Applebee's and my preacher walks in, and I said, don't let the Budweiser jacket upset you, Brother Mac. I'm a Miller Lite guy. But anyway.
I will say that whole thing being like improv, like his 2 biggest like taglines.
Yeah.
Completely off the cuff, like improv. Like I was like, oh, that gives me like a much greater like appreciation for.
Like, oh yeah, because he even came up with it. And that's the bottom line. Because like Stone Cold said so. You know where he got Stone Cold at?
I do.
His ex-wife Jeannie. She's British, and she told him to drink your tea before it gets stone cold. And then and he's based off of that serial killer, the Iceman. And
Jeannie was also dating and has a child with Chris Adams. So, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was the first feud in Dallas. Was him and Chris Adams' ex-wife against Chris Adams and his new wife.
Right. And Jeannie doesn't have any children with him. The ex-wife has a son, right? Yes, because I know there is a son.
Yeah, Jeannie didn't have any kids with Chris.
No, but she has 2 with Stone Cold.
With Austin, yeah.
Interesting how it all weaves together.
Yeah, I know.
Have we ever seen a producer or a director or even a writer, I guess, write out their fantasies to be displayed on television by them? Because I'm sitting there thinking, Vince McMahon wrote all these situations for him to be making out with Trish and making out with Sable and making out with
he did that with Sable after Sable sued him.
Oh my God.
Like sexual harassment, come back. I'm writing you into a sexual harassment.
We're going to write sexual harassment into the storyline so now I can do it and you can't sue me for it.
You'll never convince me when Edge and Lita had the live sex show in the ring. Oh, yeah.
That's horrible.
Little backstory, in case I think everybody knows, is that Matt Hardy and Lita were an item. Matt Hardy got hurt. Lita's on the road. Edge is on the road. Edge is married. Lita's in a relationship with Matt Hardy. So Edge, being the fine, upstanding citizen he is, decides to screw his buddy's girlfriend. So they're in a relationship. So they're cheating. She's messing with the married man. He's messing with his buddy's girlfriend. And anyway, Matt, and for some reason,
this is the story or real life?
No, this is real life.
Real life.
Matt catches them. Matt makes a big deal about it. Matt ends up getting fired over it.
Because
even though Matt was the one that was wronged.
Right.
Matt caught it because he was too public about it. But they brought Matt back because there was outrage, and then they made them work together. They were in a feud. But Edge and Lita, they were going to have sex on television. Mm-hmm. They had a bed in there. I mean, he was wearing like a Speedo.
Did. Yeah, they practically
did. I mean, you saw
soft porn, definitely.
Yeah, you saw there was a slip with the blanket. They weren't actually doing it on television, but I believe that they were put in that position as punishment for the mess that they created.
Possibly.
But it even makes more sense now that Vince would try to humiliate.
How is that making it better?
No, I'm saying that Vince put them out there to do that.
No, I get
To
the
humiliate them.
motivation, but how is that making the situation less of a mess?
Well, he could
It
say
wasn't.
it's for entertainment purposes.
Well, it'd become an angle at that point.
Yeah.
They were constantly making out, and it was just. But I think that, it's like Ben Jones says, Vince writing that stuff and saying it's for his character.
Yeah.
Or for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
What a piece of dirt.
Exactly. And the fact that he acknowledges this, and this is the other thing that I'm just like, my head hurts thinking about it. I want that lady on Women Who Kill who does the, psychoanalysis, because I really think that she needs to hear this stuff. He had an idea of impregnating Stephanie. Like he thought that was a good idea.
Episode 5 was so hard to watch.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I couldn't remember where that was, but it was just,
yeah,
it's really
cringe.
It's
cringe.
It made me so sad at first, because like the episode starts with them talking about what's her face coming out and everyone yelling slut at her.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephanie.
And Triple H says that Vince turns to him and does this. And I was like, I couldn't, like, even if it's for a storyline and I'm in on it, like, and I guess this is like kudos to you, Dad, that I don't have like daddy issues, but like, I can't imagine even in pretend world, my dad being okay with 50,000 people yelling slut at me. Like, let alone actually wrestling and hitting me, even if it's for the storyline. Like,
Right.
Ugh.
Well, and that also goes to say Vince, and this is, I think it was in this, I think it's in the next episode, because the next episode is family business, but Vince wanted to put the real wedding of Stephanie and Triple H on pay-per-view. And I truly think possibly as punishment, because Stephanie didn't want to do it, she had a match with him like a week before her wedding.
Yeah.
He's such a narcissist.
Isn't he though? Like, what kind of absolute...
I kind of get not wanting to have the wedding on pay-per-view.
Yeah,
you imagine?
I do too.
She could have had the royal wedding. I mean, she could have said, we'll do it on pay-per-view. She could have had a wedding more massive than anything.
She also could have done that and still had her real private, personal, real life wedding. And maybe her dad could just act like her dad and not Mr. McMahon.
Right.
Exactly. Kudos to her for saying no. You'd be like, you know what? I'd like to separate some things, like my life, and like it doesn't have to all be out there. But yeah, they had a match. I mean, so he even, he'll punish his own kids if they do stuff that he doesn't like.
Oh, yeah. All of episode 5 was.
It goes back to that whole thing of, like we had talked about before, way before episode 1 and 2. Well, it was consensual. Well, yeah, but yes, you did not, tie her up and force yourself on her, but you sat there and talked for 20 minutes about how, oh, you'd really hate for something to happen to your job, and I'd really hate for you to lose your job because you're not, and it's the same thing. He's like, man, this will be good entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, this will be good entertainment. Let's just let me smack you around. Everybody would love to see that. It's just,
well,
he's really something else.
When he made Trish get on all fours and bark like a dog, I did not like that. I didn't like it then. Don't like it now. I mean,
take all your clothes off. It wasn't just bark like a dog. It was take your clothes off.
Yeah, and that's. I don't like that. I mean, let's say that when I took Maddie and Patrick, I take them to the wrestling matches.
Mm-hmm.
And
How
we go.
old are they, for reference?
Maddie's right now. Maddie's 14, Patrick's 11.
Okay.
But I've been taking them for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say 2 years ago, I took them to the wrestling matches. We're there. We can't wait. And they come out and they do something like that. These kids, I didn't know that they were going to do something like that with these kids here.
Right.
It's kind of like back at All In Chicago, the first All In. I'm watching wrestling.
Oh, I know.
And then Joey Ryan does a spoof of The Undertaker.
Yeah.
And here come, instead of druids, you got guys walking out in giant penis costumes.
And who would know? We knew those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. He's Polly the penis. And now we know what the C stands for with Timmy C. But no, I mean, I'm not crapping on those guys for doing a job. I'm just saying, like, I didn't know. I mean, Joey Ryan was already doing the questionable.
He was doing a lot of stuff with his penis.
Like Joey Ryan was doing a character, Brittany, where he'd use his penis. Like he'd make you grab it, and then he would do like he'd do something, and he'd make you flip.
Really, yes.
And it was funny. It was kind of funny once or twice.
Yeah.
But the sheer ridiculousness of it.
Yeah.
And they did a whole thing where he got killed off and then brought back by these light up penises walking to the aisle like druids, like the Undertaker. But I'm up here watching this thinking there's kids here.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, I mean, I'm looking at kids. This is personal foul, unnecessary bullshit. There's kids here. The same thing with Trish doing that. There's kids there with Sable. Am I going to sit here and tell you that I didn't enjoy that? No, I'm not going to tell you that. But the uncomfortableness of doing that in front of children, even when they got Jacqueline, she literally did flash on pay-per-view.
What? Let me ask you this: what if you didn't have your two grandkids, but you know their kids in the arena? Did that bother you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it would really bother me. Well, it'd be different with my grandkids because I'm gonna have to hear this shit when I get home. Like, what have you taken these kids to? Now I'm catching shrapnel from it.
Right.
So that's even worse. But I mean, just being there, it's uncomfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was uncomfortable for me 25 years ago.
Definitely.
And I was in my 30s. Thinking that all of this stuff was cool. And I'm as juvenile as they get.
Mm-hmm.
I'm as juvenile as they get. I once got kicked out of a strip club because I ran my debit card through a stripper's ass crack.
You know, I thought I'd heard most of your stories, but Irish terrorist and credit carding a stripper, both are new ones.
I mean, it was funny. It was funny. Even the guy that threw me out thought it was funny.
So where did you see that, and who dared you to do it? Where did you see that?
I'd never seen it before.
So what gave you just thought, oh, her ass looks like an ATM. I'm just going to slide it through. And
well, it was suggested to me that I should go to the ATM machine. That's the move when you're out of cash.
I got you. How many beverages had you had?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay. And you were probably with a friend, so you were probably being egged on a little bit.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah. I believe I was with my cousin Mickey.
Oh God.
I think Bo was with me.
That would have been my guess.
I mean, I'm just saying that I was all about juvenile entertainment back then, but I'm not a complete dirtbag. You don't do that around kids.
Right.
But do you think you felt that way because you had kids?
I'm sure it contributed to it.
Because we were little.
I remember
And
I went and saw the movie Ted with Sean, my husband. He wanted to go see it. And this family came in. And I thought, and Sean did too at first, we're like sitting there for a second. I mean, like this child there was probably a 5-year-old in there. I'm like, okay, I bet they don't know what this movie's about. They think they saw a teddy bear. They thought it was going to be funny. No. I was pissed off that whole entire movie because I'm sitting here knowing that this little 5-year-old is hearing all these adult sexual jokes and all this other mess, and their parents willingly brought them to it. I've never been so mad in my life.
I've been uncomfortable in a movie before because there was kids there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I was judging them.
Oh yes, I 100% was judging them, and I was staring at them too. I was making sure they knew. No,
I mean, there's a line with all this,
mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna tell you that there was more times I enjoyed the Attitude Era than I was uncomfortable with the Attitude Era. But when I was uncomfortable, I was really uncomfortable.
Now, see, I will say I did not thoroughly enjoy it for those reasons you probably did, like.
You weren't the target audience.
No,
you weren't the target audience.
So I totally know. But I'm just saying, I was not interested in all Stone Cold. I was definitely interested in him. I love that character, but Miss WrestleMania 2000, all that other mess. I just,
Now, other side of the coin, and Brittany will tell you that I had double standard with my children. I had my boy rules, and I had my girl rules. Yeah, I don't care. I did. And I'll double down on it. But I took Christopher to go see Kiss in 1996. Mm-hmm. When they got back together, they put the makeup on. They put the makeup back on. They went out on tour. It was the original 4. Mm-hmm. I took Christopher with me. He wanted to go. And we're there. And they have the video wall. And the ladies on the front row, to my surprise, were flashing Gene Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately turned to Christopher to cover his eyes. And Bo goes, "Dave, really?" And I'm like, but immediately seeing what was going on down on the front row, my thoughts went to my 10-year-old stepson.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm just curious, how old do you think those women were? Were they young, or were they like they'd seen them the first time around kind of thing?
Amy, I probably hadn't seen their faces to I don't know how old they were, but I know what they were showing was pretty new.
Oh, okay, so they were bought. Is that what we're saying? Bought movies?
I mean, I'm just saying that when that happened, my first instinct was I got my young son with me.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. I mean, I don't understand why people would do that, but like I said, I'm kind of I guess I'd probably be a prude in those areas. So, and that's okay.
It did crack me up when they were talking about like the target audience of the Attitude Era and like basically like where was the line and are you irresponsible because you're targeting kids, and Vince is going on about how it's it's family friendly. But then at one point there's this person saying, it's not, they're not targeting adults. Like, there's merch, this is, the target audience is, an 8-year-old boy for this merch, and there's action figures. And I died cackling because I was like, I don't think that's Dad missed that memo. Because he's had a 40-year-old virgin room for 30 some odd years. And when he said that, and like they're talking about, I wrote it down because I was like, that's fucking funny. Like,
yeah.
Vince may have a point that like
Vince said family friendly, and he said that shit with a straight face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then he kind of came back and smirked, and he said an adult family.
Yeah.
And he kind of said it with a smirk. So I think that was, he
Yeah.
kind of acknowledged with a wink and a nod that, yeah, it wasn't for the kids.
Triple H with his bullshit. Well, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done some of this. But who's worse? The people who did it or the people who liked it watching it? Be so fucking for real.
Well,
sir.
Triple H used to, he
But he
got
also
a girl to flash him.
Like,
They'd get girls to flash him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I know who's worse. You know who's worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that with a shitting grin too. So
But he also in hindsight, now he has kids. Back then he didn't.
Right.
So, now, I mean, I'm sure that crap hits different when maybe your college age daughter sees something and says something. Like, did you really do that? And of course, I don't know that family. They could all be screwed up for all what we know.
Mm. I don't know. Let's hope not.
I hope not too. We're getting to episode 5, the family business. I also want to point out that there's a lot of parallels in this episode for me and Shane McMahon. Because Shane just wanted his father's approval.
Mhm.
And I did too. And I worked with my dad. And my dad was an alcoholic, which made it a different dynamic for me. I mean, none of my ideas were good enough. Nothing. I mean, it didn't. Looking back on it, I know that my ideas probably weren't right, but I was convicted that we should try this. And the frustration that I'm out here 14 hours a day executing the plays.
Yeah.
You're over here drinking all day. All too glad to let me do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I wanted, it's so similar. So I relate to Shane a lot, that nothing I ever did was going to be good enough to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, when he quit drinking, it was different, but it's just, so all through this episode with Shane butting heads with his dad and wanting to do things he had ideas that were squashed. I completely relate to Shane McMahon 100%. And we talked about Vince wanting to put the wedding on pay-per-view. The stuff that he booked his daughter to do, though. I mean, he had his daughter make out with Eric Bischoff.
Mm-hmm.
He had his wife make out with Eric Bischoff.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bischoff kicked his ass for 83 weeks. And it was more than 83 weeks, but 83 consecutive weeks. Eric Bischoff almost put this man out of business. They were close to going out of business. So you hire Eric Bischoff, which is amazing. That you give the man a job. Then that's got to be some sick.
That's an ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're there, I need you to wait. You're gonna make out with my daughter, and I'm gonna direct this. I'm directing this segment.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go now. You're gonna make out with my wife. I'm gonna direct the segment. Poor Eric. He had to do it
I have a
because he's
question
got
on
an
the
ego
ratings
too.
thing. I have a question on the ratings thing. Were there like hardcore, like, is this like that you're either, I can't even think of a good, like, like, I get the ratings thing and why that matters, but like, I remember both shows. So like, we obviously, like, you would watch both.
Right.
So like, were there hardcore, like you were either an NWO person or you were a WW?
We call that tribalism.
Like, I just like I knew of, in my mind it's all one show.
Right. But you did have people that watched. You did have your WCW people. You did have your hardcore WW. And it's like today.
And you wouldn't watch the other?
Some people wouldn't. And there was a while that I didn't. I was an NWA guy. I didn't watch WWF. I thought it was silly. Even with Kerry Von Erich, when Kerry Von Erich was wrestling there, when Ric Flair was wrestling there, I watched very little. It was like I wouldn't go out of my way. I wasn't missing what I wanted to watch it.
But did you watch when it was the Monday Night Wars? Did you watch both of them? Like watch one, tape the other kind of thing?
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
When they started ramping it up, it got to where I was watching it more and more. But my plan, I mean, I watched. You know, we had a great big C-band satellite in the backyard. I would watch Nitro live, and then I would go to the USA West Coast feed and watch Raw. But it was 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
I had work on Tuesday. I would normally fall asleep watching Raw.
Gotcha.
We didn't have DVRs yet back then. DVRs changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then there came a point where I would watch Raw and watch the replay of Nitro.
Mm-hmm.
Or a lot of times on Monday night, I would watch whatever. We'd get them to put it on the bowling alley. If we were at the bowling alley, we'd watch it at the bowling alley, and then we could watch it, whatever was on when we got home.
Did they replay it like right after it was over?
Yes.
Like I felt, okay, is that WCW?
Yes.
I thought so. Okay. Because I was like,
actually, I think Nitro went off the air, and I think they played an episode of something.
And then they did it.
And then they did a replay an hour later. I want to say that they had television shows that they led into.
Okay.
I can't remember. I know with Raw it was Silk Stockings.
Oh, I felt like it replayed. Like there was.
Because I watched Silk Stockings
the next day. Of course you did.
It was a good show.
I will say,
it was a detective show.
Sure.
It wasn't about a woman with silk stockings. It was a detective show.
Of course.
I don't even know why they called it Silk Stockings.
Sure, you didn't.
But it had Rob Estes and Mitzi Kapoor.
Kapoor. A lot about this show that happened 30 years ago.
I've never heard any of these words.
It was a good show.
I was going to say, I work with children, and it absolutely breaks my heart to hear Shane talk about all he ever wanted was the approval of his dad.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the saddest thing. I don't have to worry about that with my dad. I know he loves me. He tells me all the time. And just the fact that, and Vince went through that with his own dad. And I guess he compartmentalized. This is how, I think he even says it.
Vince says it. That's the extra like insult to it is Vince even says like, oh, he just wanted me to be proud of him.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted. To just fucking tell your son you love him or something. Like you.
Yeah, but he had to go tell his son that he loved him after he got through brutalizing himself in a wrestling match.
Did you see the interview? He's like, I got a hug from my dad that night.
That broke my heart.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Yes. Like, it's that like,
and he said it like we ought to all understand how big a deal that was.
Yeah.
I'm with you. That
Shane
just
was
made
one
me
that laughed because
so
he's
sad.
better than Vince ever was. I agree.
Yeah.
They've talked about it. That Shane, it was more than a show to Shane. He didn't like how they were treating his mother.
Yeah.
He didn't approve.
But hey, I've got a theory about that. I can only imagine Shane probably knew of all the different affairs that his dad was having. And now we're just going to put it for entertainment purposes. We're going to have you making out, we're going to have you having affairs right in front of mom, which probably was a play on real life situations, like she's working hard. She's a lawyer. She's doing all her stuff or whatever. And, he's entertaining, because we talked about that on that, whatever, the first or second episode. Rita Chatterman was like in the 80s, early 80s. So, I mean, he was already messing around.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been that long, probably. So I can imagine as a son, you're protective of your mom. I mean,
we had a rule at the store, like if we were leaving, and this is before cell phones, like my dad would say, "Hey, if your mom calls, I just left. If your mom calls in 2 hours, I just left." It was the same with my uncle. "Hey, if Linda calls, tell her I just left."
What were they doing? Getting drunk, or were they meeting up with other women?
Well, my dad was going to the pool hall. He was going to Willie's to drink beer and shoot pool. So it didn't matter whatever he wanted to do. Because when I married her mom,
where were you going, Dad?
I was going to putt golfing games on Galloway to play video games before I had to go home.
But you weren't telling Brittany to tell your mom that.
No. Brittany, kids didn't work at the store at that point.
I mean, that's
after I got shot, there was no more kids at the store.
No more. Oh,
that's
Lord.
not true. Chris worked at the store
until Kevin said something about it, and then we didn't let him come down anymore. Lasted about 2 weeks.
Is that just because you could get shot at the store and you didn't want kids there? Okay.
Well, I mean, also,
I'm 35 years old. I am not allowed in that part of Dallas.
We could do a whole case study about the shit that I mean, y'all heard. We famously told store stories on this podcast.
Definitely.
But I mean, if we haven't talked about all the crap that I saw as a young child, and when I look back on it, like, why was I exposed to this?
Right.
Well, I legitimately had a real pimp with hoes in his employ. Teach me how to fold up a coat hanger in case I ever had to beat a hoe to get my money.
Nice.
If she was holding out, he taught me how to fold up a coat hanger. I'm not making this up. I was 10. When I look back on this, I saw a bunch of stuff as a small child I shouldn't have seen. We might do it. Yeah. So, I mean, that store wasn't made for kids. But what I'm saying is that so kids know what their parents are doing. I'm sure Shane was very aware. Plus, he's hanging out with the boys, and the boys are talking, and they're probably talking in front of Shane, figuring he knows.
So, or seeing your dad disappear into the ladies' locker room or whatever.
But yeah, I mean, so that I just left, and if she calls in 2 hours, I just left. And one time I got home, and she goes, I just called, and they told me you just left, and I was just walking in the door. So.
I felt like with this episode, I feel like Shane always, had the appearance of kind of the black sheep maybe, but I really see maybe more of the inner workings of it. And it's just sad.
He's the only one that still has a conscience.
And I think that made him weak in his dad's mind. I think he put all of his eggs in the Stephanie basket.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Shane. And then Shane was more of a mama's boy and had conscience and probably butt heads with his dad. Probably did not present his position in a way like everybody else, because we've heard Bruce talk about if you want Vince to do something, you kind of lightly suggest it, or maybe what if, or Shane was probably, let's do this, and then no, that's how we don't want to do that, and then it's probably just butting heads, and you get to a point with your dad, and I did it, me and my dad, we'd get toe to toe and nose to nose, ready to fight over stuff. So I can only imagine. I can only imagine how it was for Shane, but he went off and did it on his own. I mean, he went off and made a life on his own without WWE, and then came back as just as a performer.
Right. Do you think that the Stephanie Triple H package was more attractive than just Shane on his own? Do you know what I mean? Like, if
I think Triple H has positioned himself in the company that even without Stephanie.
Yeah.
Even without Stephanie, I think Triple H probably, because he was sitting. Triple H did it. Triple H did everything that he was supposed to do. He was sitting in on meetings. He was learning the business. He was, and he has a mind for it, and he obviously does because he's doing a tremendous job now.
Mm-hmm.
I think with or without Stephanie, Triple H was going to have a job there.
But do you think Stephanie would have had a job without Triple H? Like, would she really have been the heir apparent, or would he just not have given it to anybody? You think so?
I think
I
she
don't
kissed
know.
the
I'm
ring.
just asking.
I think she kissed the ring. Like,
I think that, I think that we know that they were put in catalogs as kids and merch catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
Shane learned the ropes and was a referee. He put Stephanie on television, did the whole thing with The Undertaker, did the whole thing with Triple H, did the whole thing with Test.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she liked being a character, but she probably had a passion for the business side too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think she likes being the global ambassador. As a woman, she does. I mean, she's always doing those conferences. She likes that women in power, being a positive role model. So, but I think it was always going to be. I don't think it hurts that he's married to Stephanie, but it don't make a hill of beans now.
True.
I mean, it's not nepotism that's got him his job right now.
He didn't sleep his way to the top, but he did sleep his way to some job security.
Yeah, but think about it. Think about it. When WWE was the only game in town, if he screwed up and he got blackballed from WWE, and now he can't wrestle. So he's got to do an office job. Of course, I think if something happened with TKO, I think AEW would be a tremendous asset if he was listened to.
That is the number one thing, is being listened to, and that they seem to struggle with that over at AEW.
I think he's taking some harsh criticism right now, the unfair criticism.
What are they criticizing?
Diversity on the card.
Oh.
And then he said the other day, the one thing you're not supposed to say is I don't see color.
Right.
Even though Nia Jax was one of the main events, Roman Reigns was one of the main events. I mean, there was, you had 2 women's matches.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of diversity on that card out of 5 matches. So I think Triple H is doing a hell of a job. The product's watchable. He's not one of those that's trying to cater to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting the best matches. I mean, he's putting the best matches on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, let's not forget that The Rock closed the show.
Right. The whole bloodline.
Yeah. So we talked about Sable returning. They did the girlfriend angle. Now I think that the Trish, Linda, they were drugging Linda, keeping her in a wheelchair, doing stuff in front of her. I think the payoff at WrestleMania 17 was excellent, where Linda stands up and she gets him, and Trish walks out on him, and he gets his in the end.
Definitely.
I mean, that was a wrestling story that was kind of stupid, but the payoff was there. Like I said, but then we talked about Sable sued him, but then came back and he booked her as the girlfriend. He's booking that stuff for his pleasure, and I think a lot of it's plausible deniability that
you can blur like that was my character, it wasn't me.
My character was. He said, if you watch this documentary, and every time Vince says character, you take a drink, you're not going to make it through 6. Because I mean, it's like he's qualifying every answer with my character. My
it's
character.
Like when you're trained to say allegedly so that you don't get sued.
Right.
Like it is ingrained that it's not me, it's my character. And he even goes on that whole rant about how he's not the same as his character. And then they cut to like 12 different people who are like, oh, they're the same person.
Yeah. Then he acquires WCW. He wins. He acquires WCW, starts the XFL at the same time. I was initially curious about the XFL. I liked what they were doing in the XFL. Football is shot differently because of the XFL. The XFL, with what they did with the camera angles, the overhead cameras, they made some entertaining rules that made the game a little more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Made the game a little more watchable. Problem is they didn't have enough. The talent was so poor that it didn't do well. So, I mean, but I don't fault him for trying. I think it was a great idea, just poorly executed. It was poorly executed. It was just so good. I mean, the way they shot it, though, they put cameras around the entire top of the stadiums to go, it was groundbreaking. And you can't say that something was all that bad when the NFL stole, or didn't steal, but adapted those upgrades into their presentation. They got cocky with the WWF, the World Wildlife Federation, or World Wildlife Fund, the PANDA.
Yes.
They were told what they could and couldn't do, and they just kept doing what they weren't supposed to do, thinking there wasn't going to be any repercussions, and there wasn't nothing they could do about it. And so, of course, they had to rebrand it to WWE, and that's what they, but they actually offset the costs of rebranding by coming up with a hell of a slogan: "Let's get the F out."
Definitely. Perfect timing, attitude era,
And everybody wanted to get the F out t-shirt. So he brings, let's see, Gianni just said, "Hey Dave, could you see the XHL? It'd be like NHL hits the game in real life." Interesting. I don't know that hockey could become any more violent than it already is, though.
It feels like giving wrestlers weapons.
Really? Vince brings, he's trying to create competition. We're doing an invasion angle. Most of the big name wrestlers are under contract with WCW, sitting at home, making more money. They weren't willing to pay them. I think that was an error, but I don't think he ever wanted WCW to see the light of day.
No.
ECW, I don't think Vince had a problem with, because they've used it. They used it, created a new brand with it. WCW, I don't think it ever had a chance, because I think that was Vince's deer head on the wall. I think he won, he killed it. So he brings in the NWO because he's Ric Flair because Ric Flair owns his story. Ric Flair owns part of it. Stephanie and Shane had put WCW and what is that, a consortium?
Yeah.
And anyway, Vince decides, well, I created all this, so I'm going to inject it with cancer. I'm bringing in the NWO. So they bring back Hall, Nash, and Hogan, and it was fun. It was fun out of the gate. They did a fun promo with the Rock backstage where, you know, the Rock's being cool to him because Hogan said, "Hey, my kid loves you," you know, not accounting for taste, but. And then the Rock goes off on all three of them, Big Daddy, and you know, doing Diesel, and the Rock does that whole thing. Well, it leads to Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18, and the fans didn't want Hollywood Hogan. The fans wanted Hulk Hogan back. And that match, you know, we've heard Kyoto talk about standing in the ring for it. You watch it, it's organic that they both just slowly turn their heads looking at the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an entertaining match, probably one of my favorite Hogan matches. That they knew that they had to have the red and yellow Hogan back. And they sent a jet from Canada to Florida for Hogan's wife to put his red and yellow on the plane and get it back to him for Raw, because they knew that reaction. Hollywood Hogan's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're back, you know, they brought in Eric, they brought Brett back, Austin, they did the Katie Vick thing, which, my God, I can't even believe. Even Triple H said that. I think they were talking about Vince's things that they were making them do. What they made him do with Katie Vick.
Yeah,
that was You saw the part where Triple H was in a casket.
Oh yeah,
That was Katie Vick,
got it.
Kane's dead girlfriend.
Oh, classy.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So Triple H they made Triple H bang a corpse on television.
Mm-hmm.
Gave birth to a hand, Mark Henry and Mae Young. They came up with John Cena and went into the ruthless aggression era.
Babyface John Cena was like, with his little douchebag haircut, it was so like him and The Rock, like when he first, like, and he was like a different costume or whatever, and he's just like bouncing around like a golden retriever.
Yes.
Well, he
When he was Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
And Cena was called the prototype.
Yeah, he was the prototype. He was the prototype in OVW. But he came up as John Cena, right? Or was he called prototype?
He was the prototype in OVW.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but he's
Was
the
he
prototype in California.
Okay, but he was not that at WWE, right? That's
No,
what
he
I was
came out and
asking.
said, "I'm John Cena," and Kurt Angle says, "Well, what can you offer?" "I have ruthless aggression," and slaps him. And
Right.
the Necro
Oh,
era, Darren Staley.
That
I liked how
luckily-
Darren Staley said hot mustard Doritos is the Hulk Hogan potato chip.
I'm glad that era was very short and we haven't seen it ever again.
Yeah. Cena was fun though with the rapping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they played it out, and then he became Super Cena, and
Dr. Thugonomics.
Yeah.
so. And then we went to episode 6, the finish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Led off with the Battle of the Billionaires. They brought in Donald Trump. Trump had been around WWE. I mean, they had WrestleMania WrestleMania 2
4.
and 4,
4 and 5.
4 and 5 at the Trump Plaza. He's always been very supportive of wrestling.
Mhm.
But they did the Battle of the Billionaires. I think that Trump came off really well.
Mhm.
Every time that he hit Vince, it kind of looked like old men fighting. I mean, he
You know what that looks like, right, Dave? No.
he got Bobby Lashley.
Mhm.
Vince got Umaga, and Bobby Lashley beat Umaga, and they shaved Vince's head and had a big time doing it. Then they so that Vince showed he could laugh at himself, and then with the in his facials, the whole thing with shaving his head. Then he decided he didn't want to be on television anymore, and he does the whole thing where he walks out solemn, it's like he's just like almost entranced.
Mhm.
And he gets in the limousine, and the limousine explodes.
Right.
And the editing on that was perfect. Darren Staley makes a point, and I think me and Brittany even talked about this offline. Trump is the master of bringing kayfabe wrestling into politics, whether you love him or hate him. Oh, he's carny. He's definitely carny. Trump is a wrestling character.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of his speeches are promos. He's cutting promos. And Brady, you look like you're about to explode.
I'm being so good.
No, I mean, it's okay. I mean, we're not being political. We're talking about his. Yeah,
No,
I mean, you even said that you drew the correlation.
When I text you, I think we were still in episode 4.
And you hadn't seen him yet.
And I hadn't seen episode 6 yet. And I had texted you, and I was like,
Oh.
there's a interesting correlation here between these characters. You know.
Cut a promo, Britt. Oh, so anyway, then he walks out and he gets in the limousine, and the limousine explodes.
Mhm.
So he's writing himself off television. He's killing the Mr. McMahon character. But then, as fate would have it, they had to pivot because Chris Benoit was found dead. And then he's like, real life Trump, the angle. So Vince, then when a wrestler dies, they normally do a tribute show for him. And they did all this before they knew, because this happened on the weekend. Chris didn't show up pay-per-view on Sunday. On Monday, they have a tribute show for him, not knowing that he did what he did.
Right. I think no one knew. I mean, they were still trying to figure out stuff.
Right.
It wasn't, they had just knew he was dead, and so was Nancy.
Because you couldn't wrap your brain around the fact that he would have killed his wife and his child.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and at that point, how much of that really was known? They're still investigating. I mean, I'm sure, that it wasn't public knowledge, less than 24 hours, like what exactly happened. They just knew they had passed. And like you said, that's not your first inclination to think, oh, well, he must have killed everybody. So,
right. I mean, you wouldn't have thought that.
Somebody came in and killed them all, and just a robbery, or, you're just no telling what you're thinking. Yeah. And the police probably weren't speaking just because they're trying to figure out what, they obviously knew a lot of it just from the way they were found. So, to give some inclination of what happened. So, yeah.
Well, then Vince said Chris went nuts. Those are the quotations. They talked about CTE. Vince wasn't having any of that. I actually was getting a little angry. It was dismissive. And Vince really wasn't the only one that was being dismissive about it.
Mm-hmm.
That something could have been wrong. I mean, they weren't wanting to take. It was like, you're not going to blame my wrestling on on the I mean, but Chris Nowitzki.
He's saying it. They're not correlated in any way, and then in the same breath brings in what's his face to teach them about CTE, and I'm like, so do you agree or do you not? Because you can't, like,
they didn't really tie it up.
Your mouth.
They didn't tie it up with a bow there.
Right. I think he doesn't want to be blamed.
Yes.
So we're not going to say but what is science saying now, kind of thing, I guess.
Well, and then he even doubles down on who was it? The Undertaker had a match where he had a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
And is telling the story about, like, I don't remember that I don't remember that match because I got a concussion. And then Vince is saying, well, he was supposed to win and I made him lose. And so he was just traumatized. That's why he doesn't remember the match.
Yeah, he lost the streak.
Yeah,
so
and he could care less.
Yeah, like the whole thing. Like, oh, he's so bad.
Yeah, and when he was called, and when Vince is called on, when somebody stands up to him with facts, he gets like, it's like he's outraged.
Right.
Like, how dare you? To where, I mean, on that with that reporter, not Costas. I mean, I can understand anybody punching. I can understand anybody punching Bob Costas. But Costas was right. When Costas got him, Costas was right. But this guy, I don't remember his name. But
I know what you're talking about.
But Vince started doing the and then hit his papers, and I'm like,
Worldwide. What was he on? Worldwide Sports?
It was on HBO.
Yeah.
You know what it made me think of?
The Bryant Gumbel show on HBO.
It made me think of that scene in Dodgeball, where oh God, I can't think of it. Like, but he's when the bird poops in his hand.
Yeah.
I do not remember.
Oh no, it's not Dodgeball. It was an episode of Friends, but it was Ben Stiller. Anyway, sorry.
That's all right. But I mean, Vince put himself in that position. He even went on Donahue.
Yeah.
He went on Donahue. And I was like, why would you put yourself in that position? And I got so tickled looking at Meltzer. Meltzer with his double-breasted and the permed hair. And then I got to thinking, and I kind of got ashamed for a second, because at that time of my life, I was wearing double-breasted suits and I had permed hair.
We need to see more pictures of that.
No, we don't.
I love those family portraits that you've shown us.
Your perm,
golden meals, whatever it is.
With the perm.
Heck, yeah.
Yeah, me and her mama had the same haircut. The loud colored Garth Brooks shirts. The loud Garth Brooks shirts pictures at holidays were the
my God. Please.
Speaking of,
we need to see those.
Speaking of, he's got a 27-page. Well, now I'm going to wrap it up with this. of who, Darren? Darren, you ain't even got elected yet, and you're already starting this. Darren's running for state senate in North Carolina. We love Darren Staley, and he said, "All I know is I saw PWD at the Harris rally the other day. Staley for new North Carolina Senate."
You are so funny.
I will endorse you for North Carolina State Senate. Darren, you're all right with me, man. I'm not putting that on the screen.
Lord.
You know the guest is my daughter, right, Darren? Anyway, I want to wrap it up with this because then it went to the lawsuit.
Mhm.
It went to the accusations.
Mhm.
And then we got a little note that said Vince no longer showed up for his interviews.
Yeah.
Nobody did. Understandably so, because now you've got a lawsuit, criminal case. People can't talk about it.
Right.
They screwed Bruce Pritchard on the edit. They screwed Bruce.
Yes.
Because they asked Bruce, so what'd you think about all this? And Bruce, I don't like it. Why don't you like it? Because y'all cut it all up to make him look like an asshole. Well, what did you need to see out of it? Well, when my wife got cancer, Vince McMahon made sure she had the best treatment. She was given 4 years to live. She's still alive 24 years later. And it's because Vince McMahon got her the best care possible. But y'all didn't do a documentary about Vince being a good guy, making sure that my wife got the best care. It's career pro. I mean, Bruce said all that, and you know how Bruce is. Bruce gave him some attitude, and then they cut Bruce off, and they go 2 days later, and then the shit hits the fan about Vince with the allegations.
Right.
So they kind of screwed Bruce on that.
Right. But let me ask you this, because I don't know. Do you know of more nice things Vince McMahon has done that they were not talking about? And I'm not trying to be, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, he's talking about, you're not saying all these nice things about Vince McMahon. What stories are there? Do you know of any?
Well, the thing is that what they're saying is he does a lot of good, but they don't publicize it. Bruce is saying I've heard privately things that he's done.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm not saying. I don't know.
Like anybody in wrestling can go to rehab on the WWE. There could. I don't know if TKO's doing it, but Vince made rehab available.
Right. No, that's very true. Yes.
I mean, Vince has gone out of his pocket. You just don't hear about it.
Right. And again, I'm not trying to be like, when Bruce said that, I just wanted to know, like, what stories are we missing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Necessarily. I wouldn't know about Bruce's wife. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I did not know that.
Yeah.
And unless Bruce said, well, I told you the story about my wife and y'all haven't shown it. Like, I don't know. I don't really know how many stories are out there that were not being told. I guess that's why I was not for sure. Like, what am I missing on that? But no, but you're right about the rehab thing. That is true.
I mean, there's good and bad in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince McMahon shows us his bad side more than he does his good.
I don't even know if it's bad because it compartmentalized. Everything is like he said it in, I think the episode 5. Like, my dad didn't tell me he loved me and I turned out okay. Like, I think he just, like, we're just so rigid. Like, he doesn't think, well, maybe that's not cool to, continue the show after someone died on the mat. But I would, if it was me, I'd want to keep going. So therefore, it's just
there's no account.
Oh, you okay?
The old man will just sneak right up on you.
No kidding. Do I need to text Tep and say, go smack him on the back?
Sorry about that, y'all.
Jeez.
You good?
Yeah.
You didn't have to fake your almost death.
There's no.
I'll stop.
The man there's no accountability in his life. Nobody holds him accountable.
No, because they're too scared.
I thought it was interesting that all of the wrestlers said how it was a father relationship with him. And like in the back of my head, I was like, whose father though? Because not Shane's father. That they looked at him with some sort of affection, but also like how many of the stories are like, he gave me my career and he put me in the position to win the belt or whatever, where it was a mutually beneficial thing for Vince versus
He's obviously done something with his
heart.
You are so right, Brittany. I think the ones that said that were the John Cena's and the Undertakers, the ones that were in a great position to be mutually beneficial to both. So yes.
I feel like that would be the majority of the positive stories about him.
But Michelle's with us tonight. Thank you for, I don't want to, is that passwork? I don't want to, I probably butchered it up, but I appreciate you not only watching, but commenting. He has narcissistic tendencies with talent and family. He doesn't have empathy for others due to trauma in childhood.
100%.
I think she found a way to say what I was trying to come up with.
Right.
That his upbringing, the terrible childhood, he has no accountability.
I think Michelle's
he's put himself in a position where it's my way or the highway.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, a my way or the highway mentality is not healthy. But he's also managed to do something with his talent, his circle. John Cena loves him. And you can love a person and not love what they've done.
But you know what though? I do agree. But John Cena, the question was asked to all of them. What will be McMahon's legacy? Oh, I don't know if I can answer that.
No one can answer it.
I mean, John Cena, I think he sees it as mutually, beneficial, because it's like, you don't hear all this love for Vince McMahon right now. It's all, I don't know. It's kind of a hands off a little bit.
Yeah, but over the last few years, even the most casual of wrestling fans have said Vince McMahon was killing the WWE because it was unwatchable. It was getting unwatchable. His booking was ridiculous. So even it's just his legacy. I mean, we got to see how this is all going to play out, because we can believe at face value everything we heard in that court document that Janelle Grant filed against him. I can also see that Vince, if you would have paid her the $3 million that you owed her, we wouldn't have heard about this.
Definitely.
You paid her one, but you didn't pay her the second payment.
Exactly. And why?
And now we're hearing about it. So I don't think we're ever going to get it in a court case. I don't think this is ever going to go to court. I don't think evidence is going to be presented. Part of me,
that's for the criminal side.
Well, the
civil side,
if the Justice Department, if they arrest him for trafficking, because they asked her to pause her lawsuit while they finished their investigation. So I'm not talking about the criminal case. If the criminal case comes to, we're going to find out something.
Yeah.
Right.
But the civil case, we have to, if we ever get it, if it ever comes out in the court, I think it's going to be settled. I don't think it's ever going to be aired publicly. But I can read in detail the horrific things that he's done to her. And then I can ask myself, but she stayed for it. And we're only hearing about it because the money ran out. Also, she thought she was the girlfriend, and she wasn't. She was, God, I hate to say this because I don't feel that way, but he treated her like a toy. everything I've read in that document's horrible, 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 horrible. I hope it's not true. I hate to think that there's people that are that vile. And we're learning every day that there's people out there that are that vile.
So you hope it's not true because you don't want to connect them to Vince and all that stuff. Like,
I hope
or do you think it's true, but you just don't want it to be?
I believe a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know that she was truly wronged in her mind, and not just mad because she didn't get everything that was promised to her.
I do want to say, I think Michelle in our chat, I think she is that lady on Women Who Murder, because she has diagnosed, look at all these wonderful things that she has put. Can I have compassion if you weren't reared in a child? I mean, she's like,
yeah,
I really like, in Vince's mind, he doesn't see others as human beings, just a means to advance his business. I mean, I do think Michelle is that woman that I watch who psychoanalyzes everything, because she has hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If
throughout.
Linda ever told Vince, I think the company is the other woman, Vince would 100% tell her, no, the company is the only woman.
Exactly. Well, that's what Paul Heyman said. That's the only monogamous relationship he's ever had, was with the wrestling business.
In cases of Stockholm syndrome, or he has no empathy for his actions, he sees that he wasn't a human, just bought property. Yeah, I kind of think that there could be some Stockholm syndrome there too. I don't know how. I'm not giving Vince a pass. I don't want to say anything out loud that makes it seem like I'm giving Vince a pass.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, like you said, we're only hearing one side. I mean, who knows what? I have a feeling that it's going to be one of those things, kind of like maybe with Rita Chatterman, and maybe historically, like, well, I didn't say she had to have sex with me. Well, no, but you did give her, like, you doubled her pay and you gave her gifts. And so you're kind of insinuating that, well, I'd hate for you not to work here, so I couldn't see you every day. I don't know if that, but I'm just saying, like, I think he has a way of maybe doing that, saying things, propositioning things in a way that
the power dynamic, that it's not an equal power dynamic. So it's not like,
right. Yes, exactly.
Now, I believe her that, what'd you say her name was again? The referee.
Rita Chatterman.
Rita got raped.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that with my whole heart. I believe, I 100% believe her.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're hearing it so much. I mean, we got all this that's come out about Diddy. And now there's 27 pages on Garth Brooks.
Mm.
And I mean, he tried to get in front of it. He filed a John Doe lawsuit in Mississippi.
What is that?
Not under his name. Trying to block her from releasing any information, getting a restraining order, trying to countersue her as a John Doe, though, because he knew that if anything came out, it would damage his reputation.
So the woman is from Mississippi that is filing the lawsuit?
No, he filed it in Mississippi. I don't know why. I just heard it was filed in Mississippi.
Okay. I didn't know.
In federal court in Mississippi, but she's come out with 27 pages, says she's got text messages, she's got recordings. I mean, the things that she's describing, like he thought he was in a relationship and she was telling him all along, you're not. I mean, she was like, it's just that I was not in a position to quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't lose my job. And if she can prove all that against him, I mean, he's in for a rough time.
Well, I think, like Michelle said, there is something about power that makes people think they're invincible. And
It's 100% power.
You know,
100% power.
and that's what you're seeing with, I mean, even the president of the United, you know, Bill Clinton, if we could go all the way back, and I'm sure there's lots more, you know, examples of just people in power maybe not making the best decisions, but thinking they're invincible and they can't be touched. And you might get that with, you know, whatever might be coming out with Sean Diddy Combs and maybe with Vince and maybe with Garth Brooks and who knows, you know, Kobe Bryant had something. So I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of.
Mike Tyson.
He went to jail for that though.
He did.
But like you said, you know, just, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. But I do want to say something before
it's just disturbing. I mean, especially, I guess we put these people, I guess, on too high of a pedestal.
Definitely. We think we know them because we see them on TV. They're singing, you know, and yeah. And again, they have so much available to them because of the power and the money or whatever they're involved in, that, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, you just, like you said, you've got people that are wanting to be, well, that's just like Kevin Spacey and the Epstein, you know, I mean, the Me Too, like you heard some of those things where.
Well, let's talk about Bob Crane, played Hogan on Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
He had a dungeon.
Yeah. Okay. Is that,
I mean,
did he kill himself?
S&M and stuff like that. But I mean,
did he kill himself or did someone kill him? Someone killed him, right? Was it like I'm gonna look that up now. Do you remember? I'm just saying
that his dark side came out. We heard about it, but sometimes it's not about power. Sometimes people are just perverts, and they got their freak. They're doing freaky stuff behind the scenes. I'm not saying that that's what Vince was doing. I'm not saying that that's what Diddy was doing, and I'm not saying that's what Garth was doing. I'm saying that.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's the acts. It's the coercion and the, you know, I think it's stuff like that. I mean, okay, if you want to have sex with a bunch of people in a big bed and baby oil, and I mean, what do I care? It's not my house. But I think it's whenever people are being drugged and you know, I think that's
when the baby oil is laced with drugs, so you can no longer consent.
Yeah. You heard that too?
Yeah.
So, it's a facade of what we want to believe our famous people are in their minds. But we have to remember all these people are human, just like us, good or bad.
Michelle, you are so smart.
I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, the joke on him is he breaks up with his girlfriend because she turned 25. To me, a man my age with a 19-year-old, in my mind, something's not right about that.
Right.
It's not illegal.
No.
And if that's, you know, that's his thing.
Right. It's not illegal. It's very cringy, but it's not illegal.
I'm not going to name any names, but we've heard stories about a prominent wrestling figure.
Dave. No, just kidding.
We've heard, I said prominent. The prominent wrestling figure that likes to watch his significant other with other men.
Just go ahead and say, we know exactly who you be talking about.
No, but you know, I can say it without saying it because we've all heard the stories, but nobody's victimized there.
Right. That's fine. As long as, you know,
she's into it. That's what she likes. She said that's what she likes. He likes to watch. That's what he said he likes. He ain't ashamed of it. So, and he's not making anybody do it.
It's clear and enthusiastic consent.
Exactly.
Clear and enthusiastic consent.
Yes, not coerced.
I mean, right now, I think there's an opportunity in America for somebody to come up with a consent app. Because
what do you mean?
if I was rich and famous and single, I'd be scared to go on a date.
Well, but you don't even need to be rich either. You know, I mean, there's unfortunately a lot of rapes that happen on college campuses, and
True.
you know, the girls are, I mean, just, you know.
Well, I'm talking high profile. Like,
yes.
Like when you look at the guy that owns the Los Angeles Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders, and you look at his girlfriend. I'm not saying she's a gold digger. I'm just saying that he looks like last century's produce. There's no way that she could find him physically attractive.
Last century. Damn.
I mean,
that's rough.
The dude's ugly. Google him.
It's amazing what
no lie
trillions of
told.
dollars can make.
I'm just saying that Anna Nicole Smith was with that old guy.
Yep.
Not because of his sparkling conversation or that he was probably a juggernaut in the bedroom. She was waiting around for him to die.
whatever. She loved that 89-year-old man. You quit saying that about
I'm
their
just saying,
love.
she earned her money.
Yeah.
And just so
And
you
if
know,
I was a 100-year-old billionaire, I might want me a Playboy model too. I don't know. No, I wouldn't, because
tell us, Dave.
daughters' peers are off limits. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm not condemning anybody when I say this. I don't get guys my age with women younger than my kids. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have anything possibly in common with them. And it's, to me, but I'm sure it's because I have daughters. So it's just, I'm kind of off the rails here.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say Bob Crane was murdered. I don't think they found out who did it, but he was bludgeoned to death and he had an electrical cord wrapped around his neck. So, but he was into videotaping women. So, anywho.
Well, that was, videotaping was in its infancy.
Well, yeah. So, quick question to kind of get us back on track, and this might be our final thought about the episode. What do you think about the rumor that it was Stephanie McMahon that sent the anonymous email about all the NDAs and that kind of stuff?
Oh, that's who I suspected.
But isn't that interesting to think that she would do that to her dad, just like he would have done that to his dad, or to, he would have do the same thing if the roles were reversed. I just think that's interesting.
Well, I think she probably got to a point where one probably started disgusting her.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably disgusted by it. Also, she probably saw the writing on the wall that this is how she makes her living. She's making her living, and he's going to screw it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she didn't want her kids. Maybe she didn't want her kids finding out about their grandfather. I've always thought that she was the one I thought she was the whistleblower on the deal.
Was this after he had left, then come back, and then?
No.
That's what made him leave.
That's what made him leave.
Didn't he leave and then he came back?
And then she left.
He left again. She left. And
she took a leave of absence.
My timeline's all messed up.
And yeah, Michelle says she had to save her husband and hers fortune, and I think that had a lot to do with it.
Very true.
But let's wrap this thing up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wrap this thing up, Brittany. What was your take? What was your takeaway from the Vince McMahon documentary?
Oh, he is just the worst fucking human. Just
like just my face through most of it was just either ew or just like my head was going to explode.
Mm.
Because he's just the worst.
Does your perception of him take away from his accomplishments, or does it eclipse his accomplishments?
It's interesting the more I thought about it. Like, because I started out after I'd watched like the first 2 episodes, I was like, look, he's a bag of shit, but like I can appreciate what he built. But like the more they talked about it, I'm like, did he? Like, he ripped off other people's ideas, did them better. I fully, acknowledge like he won the battle, but like, which parts were his own original ideas that weren't either completely cringy or like the XFL that failed? Like,
Right.
So it's kind of like a weird, like, I mean,
Well, he took wrestling out of smoky arenas, put him from smoky arenas.
so which live experience do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy what it is now, or do you wish it was like when you were at the Sportatorium?
I want it to be like it was a Sportatorium. I want to believe.
So like that's like, yes, it's this big great thing, and it
The times that I can suspend my disbelief now are few and far between.
Yeah, like
But when I can suspend my disbelief and completely, like at WrestleMania in New Orleans, Charlotte and Asuka, I just knew Asuka was going to win.
Yeah.
And I'm having fun with the crowd around me because they're going, let's go Asuka, let's go Charlotte. But I'm thinking the whole time that Asuka's going to win, and that's the way I would have booked it. Now everything. Then she wins, and I freaking laugh. But I watch wrestling through the eyes of a referee, so I don't get sucked in very often anymore. But to answer, I want to believe, and back then I could believe.
Yeah.
And today I can't believe.
I'll say I have a greater appreciation for the wrestlers because like I can't buy in. I can't, to the storylines. But like seeing how much of it is on the fly, or they're changing who's winning the day of, like that kind of stuff. Like I have a greater appreciation for that part.
See, Michelle's with me. That's why I said at the beginning of this last week, Vince McMahon has always been and will always be the villain in my pro wrestling story because he killed the territories.
Yeah.
And in my mind, he's to blame for killing the territories.
So like, I don't think there's a clear, like there's not a single lane to like walk away from it with. Like,
I do think what Tony Atlas said, he was the only one brave enough to say it. I do think he could go down as the greatest promoter.
Yes. Yeah.
I do think that is an honest to goodness.
His name will be mentioned.
He was very
in the same regard as a Walt Disney and a P.T. Barnum.
Yes, he definitely was. He knew about cable and MTV, and he knew like
great at marketing.
Definitely, yes, he was very much involved in that.
And he took some risks.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, we all know how he financed WrestleMania. He managed to get the television time slot on TBS. Ted Turner said, this can't happen. Crockett buys the time slot from Vince. Vince uses that money to finance WrestleMania 1. So what do you think about the current charges against him?
Me?
Do you lean that she's 100% the victim, or she's pissed off she didn't get what was promised her?
I haven't read most, like any of it. Like I know whatever was in the documentary and whatever, like 1 or 2 stories I've read about it. So I don't I'm not going to say anything definitively based on my opinions of him. don't see him being a good person.
Yeah.
Like, which story is more believable? That she's making up shit to.
Oh, I don't think she's making up anything.
But you know what I mean?
I believe everything that she said. I just don't know how much I believe that. I don't know that I believe that she couldn't leave at any time.
Mm-hmm. And
Because
again, like
she's
you said,
making $200,000 a year.
And it goes back to I mean, granted, we're hearing about this because he didn't pay his money that he had promised her or was required to pay or whatever. You know, I think it's
we're gonna like you can understand unless you're in it.
So I tend to believe that there's more there than I'm leaning more towards her being righteous than I am for her being jilted.
See,
because the Justice Department's on his trail.
Yeah,
and they want him. So that's where I'm more lean on it.
Again, me and Michelle, I think we're there. I do. I think both of them are probably going to come out looking pretty crappy. Both of them. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a money thing for her. And so she leaks all this stuff out. And, you know, then we see what he likes to do and who all's involved. And it just, you know, things that we shouldn't know about as a private, you know, I mean, regardless of whatever he was doing with her, like the whole world didn't need to know all that. But
right.
I don't really, like you said, I think both parties have an axe to grind.
But do they? Like, if you don't call out bad behavior, how long has he been getting away with bad behavior?
There's a whole stack of them.
You know,
that's very true.
She's just the first one to, or not the first, but she's just been the loudest.
No,
very true. Very true.
When I'm in town next week, we'll talk. I tell you what. So, according to Brittany, Amy, what was your takeaway of McMahon?
I think that he was, first off, I think that his childhood has really, really, really done a number. I mean, he's probably, and Michelle probably knows this, he's got to be some kind of definition of psychopath or, and I don't mean that ugly. I'm just saying, you know, that not having the empathy. And I really do think because of whatever he went through, that he created not split personalities, but again, we've got the whole 3 computers and we got this going on and that going on. And I think he very much compartmentalized. I think he has a lot of mental issues because of this history. And he decided that he was not going to be a victim, narcissistic psychopath. And that's the reason why he doesn't really give anybody an inch. And then I think the power is everything that he's always wanted. And I just, you know, I don't think he's evil. I think he's narcissistic. I think he's a psychopath. I really, really do think. And I think that stems from childhood trauma. I do.
Yeah. You think that the power that his mom had over him, that he likes having over other people?
Let me say this. I don't understand if you say that there was incest between you and your mother, which he said, not only in this, but apparently in this Playboy. Why are you around her? Like, what you don't, I'm not going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand that
dynamic. Like,
who does he really cut out of his life though? I mean, other than Randy Savage, I can't think of anybody else that ever wronged him that wasn't welcomed back with open arms.
I don't know. I just, that little piece too, I do not understand. And but again, we don't even really know the whole story. And we don't even know if that's a true story. And I don't mean that, you know, he lets you know he said that to us. He
Well-
lets you know what he wants you to know.
Our
And
chat,
who knows?
our chat's pretty unanimous that he's a despicable human being.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the people that are watching. I appreciate the people that are in the chat participating.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah. Do us a solid. I haven't been begging lately. We're stuck at 637. I'm not too proud to beg. pwdpod.com takes you to our YouTube channel. Click subscribe. Do me a solid. I appreciate you if you do that.
Several are watching us on YouTube.
And Vince McMahon is a world champion asshole. And if we were going to get a world champion asshole belt, we could go to Big Time Belts over at facebook.com, Big Time Belts. Muhammad Zubair is doing excellent work with wrestling belts. He did these SWA tag team championships. I'm really loving what he's doing, especially with this colored leather that he's been using. I think he's been doing a tremendous job lately. The Flying V Championship is elegant. That's the only the only word I can come up with to describe this belt is elegant. Look at Sam Houston. He's happier than a puppy with two Peters holding his belts from Big Time Belts.
He looks a lot like Jake Roberts. I didn't.
He
think
looks like
that when
Grizzly
he was-
Smith to me.
Oh yeah.
Looks more like his daddy than he does his brother.
I didn't think he did when he was younger, but he really does look like it now.
Tim Robinson got his AMW belts from Big Time Belts. Lucha Libre Hood Mark Championship in Louisiana. Love those side plates. I'm going to translate that for you. Let the good times roll. John Paul does a great job with Hood Mark. He's also a tremendous photographer. Hell of a cook, too. The Arkansas Wrestling Association's Open Weight Championship was made by Big Time Belts. This to me is, I just love that white paint. That white paint pops on the main plate for me.
Definitely.
It's just not a color that's used on main plates very often. And I really love it. I'm guessing these folks are still married. They're a month in. If it goes south, they can exchange belt shots.
That's right.
But we're happy they went to Big Time Belts to get their wedding belts. Wedding belts are a cool thing. I'll tell you what else is a cool thing is fantasy football. You need a belt for your fantasy football team, and Big Time Belts can do it. The Ram Network is playing fantasy football. I stink on ice. I think it's pretty safe for me to say after a few weeks here that I'm probably not going to be the Ram Network fantasy football champion this year. But I'm trying. And I've the plates have been made, so hopefully by next week I'll give you an update on what the belt's looking like. Just the raw plates.
Cool.
I'm pretty impressed with them. Big Time Belts, Facebook.com, high quality, low prices, and we want to thank them for sponsoring our show. Brittany, I can't thank you enough for just being with us the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking time to come on our show.
Definitely.
We were planning on going an hour tonight. We're 2 hours and 23 minutes. We're long-winded. This was a lot to talk about, though. You just couldn't gloss over.
Very true. There's a lot to talk about. Definitely.
And it's a Monday night, and the most highly rated wrestling program on television's on, and we still have a lot of people with us tonight live. And we can't thank y'all enough. We know that you have a choice for your entertainment, and the fact that you take a minute to come watch us, we really, really, really appreciate it.
Tell your friends.
And with that, we're going to get out of here. We're going to run a best of next week because I'm going to be on vacation. I'm going to go hang out with my children.
Oh, how fun!
I'm looking forward to it. And so, Brittany, I will see you this weekend.
Yep.
We're going to go to the State Fair of Texas, and we're going to eat mass quantities of Things
Yeah.
that aren't
Fried.
good for us.
We're
Things
going
that are fried.
I saw a taco, like a taco in a cup. And it's like
Ooh.
3 taquitos, and there's guacamole and stuff in the cup that you can dip it
Ooh.
in. And then I saw saw so much.
Do y'all do the turkey legs? Like the big turkey legs? Y'all do those too?
Usually you got to get one on the way out because you're
Yeah.
eating real full. So you get one on the way out, and that's just like you make sandwiches and stuff for dinner.
You can get turkey
That's
legs
smart.
anywhere. I kind of want to go with their specialty stuff. You go to State Fair of Texas website, you can look at
Mhm.
all the things that won awards. They've got like a Pop-Tart, strawberry Pop-Tart baguette type
Ooh.
dessert. It's on a stick. Because the
Ooh,
guy
There's
that
the
made
sounds
it
Biscoff
good.
cheesecake
Uh-huh.
situation that was new last year. It is the best thing I've ever eaten. I am very excited to go get that.
bacon.
What kind of
Well,
bacon?
Mom said that's just okay.
And then I used to have when I lived there and I'd go to the fair every year, I had my route. I'd start out at get me a barbecue bologna sandwich,
Mhm.
and then I'd go get me a donkey tail. The
What's a
donkey tail is
tail?
a hot dog
Mm.
that's split open, stuffed with cheese, wrapped in a tortilla, and deep fried.
Ooh. That
It
sounds
hits.
good.
It hits real hard.
That's a donkey tail. Okay, I like that.
That's what I used to go get, but they've gotten so much fancy stuff now, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Y'all have fun.
All right. So for the first lady of the Arn Anderson fan club, for my daughter Brittany, I love you. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm Pondwater Dave. We will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining us.